Today's episode offers one pretty good reason I'm glad I didn't become a professor. Let's get to it, shall we?
Hit me.
The Outer Limits.
Harold J. Finley is tired of being unremarkable. He is a little man, both literally and figuratively, but he has aspirations of greatness that, until recently, were no more than wispy daydreams. But then he had a bright idea. Brain surgery. Installing into his frontal lobe a device of his own creation called a link gate, Harold now has the ability to control the very forces of nature by thought alone. After he destroys a NASA office floor in a demonstration that obviously doesn't use visible wires, the US Space Agency gives him clearance to work on a project in which astronauts will use link gates to control and mine asteroids. Dr. Harold, tries to tell the good news to his wife, who ridicules him mercilessly by telling him he'll never amount to anything and should stop dreaming. And then to his boss, the school dean, who tells him that his teaching job is more important than anything else he could possibly do with his life. Undeterred by the worst support structure a man could ask for, Harold continues to have his new abilities tested, but unbeknownst to him, little pockets of the nothing keep popping up around town, murdering rude tree trimmers and menacing his wife after Harold brings one of the astronauts home to witness a compelling case for remaining single.
You said you were going to come home early and help wash windows. You didn't, naturally, so I can't stop now.
One night, when the dean says something to his wife that is unnecessarily cruel to Harold...
Man's a nobody. A no-talent, ineffectual nobody. Precisely the kind who gets all the undeserved breaks.
reminding us all that it's okay to want him dead, he too is taken out by the Kugelblitz, leaving behind an inconsolable wife and a baffled police investigator. Eventually, Harold, figures out what we've all known for most of the episode, that his subconscious mind has made him an unwitting killer. He decides the best course of action would be to cryptically explain to his wife that he's a murderer, which she naturally dismisses as impossible, since only strong-willed men could be murderers. However, once he demonstrates his new storm powers, thankfully without the terrible one-liners about frogs, she immediately admits all the horrible things she was thinking about her husband. Because obviously, that's how you convince murderers to let you live, to tell them that you've been betraying them for years. We're left to wonder what happened next when SEN-5241, Harold, goes back to the space agency and tells them to pull the plug because it could unleash an army of superpowered subconscious serial killers. Funnily enough, the government-funded agency isn't too bothered by this possibility and attempts to sedate Harold before he can interfere with the surgical installation of another link gate into that astronaut from earlier. Somehow overlooked by the scientist in charge, though, being asleep doesn't seem to affect Harold's subconscious, and so he unleashes his brainstorm in the operating room, causing more chaos and death. When Harold wakes up and sees what he's done, he takes himself out of the equation for good, leaving us to wonder whether the United States government will continue the research. Though, if you wonder for more than half a second, you probably believe that taxes benefit the people. I liked the concept behind this episode, but I'm not too keen on the execution. It makes sense to take the basic premise of the Krell machine from Forbidden Planet and put it into a more modern context, and I like how the whole thing plays out like a parable about what happens to a put-upon, mediocre man when he is suddenly imbued with power beyond his control. It almost goes into psychological horror territory, and it is brave enough to stick the inevitable landing of Harold's self-elimination, something I imagine was tough to get past the censors. However, the hour-long runtime really does a disservice to such a simple idea. Sure, it could have been elaborated into a more complex psychodrama, but instead it feels like a lot of unnecessary build-up to a relatively brief climax, holding back the obvious reveal of what's going on until it is almost farcical that Harold hasn't figured it out yet. I love Donald Pleasance and all, but this is the first episode so far that I don't imagine I'll remember for very long. And that's all I've got on The Man with the Power. Now, as always, do those YouTube-y things and check out my Patreon and all that good stuff. But until next time, this is the Unapologetic Geek, telling you to never be ashamed of what you love. As long as you're not hurting anybody.
You've been acting funny ever since that brain operation last winter.